To our big newsmaker, India's retail inflation touched 7% in August, up from 6.7% in July. This was fueled by a 7.62% pickup in food prices as industrial production growth in July dropped to the lowest level since April at just 2.4%. This is the 8th successive month that retail inflation has stayed above the central bank's upper threshold of 6% and constitutes a setback to the spending power of households. Rural inflation, which was at 6.8% in July, saw a sharper rise than urban inflation in August, rising to 7.15%. Urban inflation moved up from 6.49% in July to 6.72% in August. The combination of inflation and a tripping industrial recovery has prompted economists to expect a fresh interest rate hike during the monetary policy review at the end of this month. But the Indian equity market looked up past the higher consumer price inflation data and surged for the fourth straight session, with analysts expecting the rally to continue, driven by foreign investors. At the open, the BSE Sensex hit a high of 60,551 points, while the Nifty 50 touched the 18,000 mark for the first time since April. Let's decode the inflation numbers and what does it mean for the household budget. Joining me on the show is our big newsmaker, Sanjeev Sanyal. He's the member of Economic Advisory Council of the Prime Minister. Mr. Sanyal, really appreciate your time. India's August retail inflation rises to 7%. It is higher than July's brief respite, what was seen as 6.7%. But it remained above the Reserve Bank of India tolerance band of 2.2 to 6% for the 8th consecutive month. How worried is the government and what is the intervention that is being looked into?
First of all, Maria, thank you very much for having me on your show. First of all, do remember that the international context in which this is happening, where international oil prices have been consistently high now for several months. Although they have come down a little bit from the peak, they are still running at over $90 per barrel. That is feeding through to domestic everywhere around the world. This includes India, of course, because we do import the bulk of our energy requirements. So consequently, we are not immune to this. And it is filtering through to food prices and other prices as well. So with that context, do remember that, yes, inflation has been an issue that we do take very seriously. Inflation indeed is running above the 2 to 6% range that the Monetary Policy Committee has been given to target. So it is something that the Monetary Policy Committee will indeed take into account when it does next monetary policy evaluation. As far as the government is concerned, certainly there are certain inputs that the government will consider, whether it's in terms of how we think about food stocks, for example, and there are, as you know, concerns about the upcoming crops because of rain variations across the country. So we will be managing this very actively. However, in a world where, even in developed countries, double-digit inflation is, almost every developed country is seeing double-digit inflation. And in emerging markets like Turkey and others, you are seeing inflation in the 60, 70, 80% range. With that background, I think India has managed to do rather well. And there is no major domestic supply-side driven inflation that we can yet see.